Hello, my name is Anna Ivanova and I'm a watercolor artist. Usually watercolor fans know me as a person who paints a lot of ballet, portraits, horses and so on. So as you can see, I left some spots, light spot there. Now we can add some shadows and add some tone because actually she's too pale for now. A bit of gray, Sienna and opera, but now the tint is more pinky. Because without pinky, she looks like a dead one, a bit. Actually, Sylphide is a kind of fairy, forest fairy. So that's why she's so light and airy. Very beautiful story there, but also very tragical one. Okay, again, Sienna. So like a pure one, I have never ever used it. So you can see that she has really warm reflexes, but the light on her head is quite cold, greeny. That's why yesterday I thought that I'm going to paint some green person, and actually I'm doing. And as you can see, I reserved the area of the ear. And here we should be careful with the dress because it's necessary white there. And now we need to add some water to make everything soft. And now we can come back to the highlights to make them softer as well. We don't need them to be that bright. Again, a bit more of opera and pyro orange. And we need to show the saturation of the shadow, otherwise we can't show the characteristics of the light, and the light is very strong here. Again, a bit more of raw sienna. And it should be very delicate with the way shadows goes, because sometimes we can overmake them, and girl can look or old or strange. And not only girl, I mean all our models. Let's add a bit more blue-gray and raw sienna. So you can see that I always use the same colors, not actually just if I want some pinky tints, I use more pinky. If I need some bluish tints, I use more blue-gray, for example, but still the mix is always the same. I like this course because it gives me a huge possibility as an artist and as a tutor to show all my capacity as a watercolor artist. And because I paint not only ballet, I paint a lot of themes, and I can show how to apply a lot of my tips and some particularities of technique. And again, more opera. And we need to separate the scapos. Let's take more blue-gray and raw sienna.
We have some new people here today who are wondering about the Chinese brushes. So
I
what
don't know the brands.
No, and I know that you don't know the branch, but what are you looking for in a brush? So if you can speak a little bit more freely about it.
Yeah, it should, you know, the hair should be tall. There should be quite big amount of it so it can hold the form, because as you can see, I always work almost with a dry brush because I can control the process only with the brush. So you can see that it doesn't do like, you know, like this. It always holds all together. This is very important. So if the quality of the hair and the quality of collecting of the hair is quite high, so it doesn't matter what form it has, because I can paint the same picture even with this brush, because it's good enough. It has a lot of hair and it doesn't lose hair. That is very important as well. So yes, of course, it's very good tool. I mean, good brush. But another thing is to know how to use it and hands, of course. Because, for example, when I got my Chinese brushes for the first time, I didn't know what to do with them because they're totally different. They kept a lot of water, so everything was fluid. Too much water was in my works, and that was quite struggling process for me. But in the end, I'm a big fan of Chinese brushes. But actually, you can choose imitation or synthetic one. It's also not that bad, but yes, of course, there is a difference with them, especially in their capability to keep the water. So now I'm going to add some tiny details, and I hope there won't be a fail. So it's better to use some reddish tint initially, because if you fail, so you can manage it with, you know, some shadow, and if the shadow contains this reddish tint, it will be much easier than if you use, for example, some black one that can be, you know, too dark or too obvious and so on. So it's better to make everything very soft, very gentle. And this is the best technique that can let you hide all your mistakes. Because, you know, you can always tell that, look at, this is the beautiful wash. I decided to leave it like this and hide some mistakes. Let's use more reddish for the ear and for the lips. And again, very soft away with the reddish tints as well. And if you feel that it was too much, you just can take away with the finger immediately. So I think the face and the character is already here with us.
Since everyone is using a different paper and everyone has different experience in this specific technique, there are many questions about what do we do when the paper curls, or is
Just
the
wet it.
surface dry now, or is it still wet, or is it moist? And people who are curious about that. So yeah, if you want to share some paper insights, people are curious.
I prefer some raw kind of paper that can be Hahnemuhle Cézanne or Turner or Lana, but the best one for me is Sennelier. It's not very popular, as I told, that also one of my secret ingredients because nobody knows it. Yes, the paper is really important in this technique especially. So if you paint on the cellulose paper, it can be, you know, struggling because cellulose dries really fast. Modern cellulose has really good characteristics, like they have archive quality, and it can be, you know, it can live more than 100 years and so on and so on. The biggest difference is that the pigment doesn't go inside the paper, so it can be removed very easily. But at the same time, cellulose is much brighter than the cotton paper. For example, this kind of raw paper, they have, I don't know, maybe some big minus because it loses the tint, the tone, and the brightness of the colors. So always, if we have some pluses, we also have some minuses. So let's take more Sienna, a bit of Van Dyke Brown, a bit of Peacock Blue more, and more concentrated without water almost. Because here we have already some underpainting that we can use. So that's why if I have a choice, of course I will choose a cotton paper, not the cellulose one. And again, if I have the choice inside the cotton paper, I prefer, for me, the best one is Sennelier. Let's soften it a bit. Let's take blue-gray as well to paint our flowers. And now we can take smaller brush. We need to add some tint on it using sepia, a bit of Sienna. And if we would like to have some really dark tint, we need to take away the water from the brush. But at the same time, the underpainting should be wet. Otherwise, you can't apply any dark color. It's just impossible because dry paper, dry brush, they don't work together. And again, let's make it a bit darker. Van Dyke Brown and sepia. Oh, pardon, ultramarine. And now you can see that the skin tone is not that dark, actually, just because now we have something darker than the skin tone. And we can even add some shadow part here. Let's take Rosian, Van Dyke Brown, a bit of scarlet. and a bit of Pyro Orange. And now it's time to paint the corset and the wings. And again, let's take the brush, the magic one, clean our palette, because it's very important when you paint, especially some light things. It's better to clean the palette always, because otherwise, and water, of course, because and palette and water, they influence to your picture. And here you can see some interesting thing. For example, just a moment, the ear is too bright. You can see that her arm is lighter than the shadow of her white dress. It's some kind of, not lower, but some thing that will make things not valuable. It has a volume. So all shadow, doesn't matter which color it has, will be always darker than the light that can be any color as well. So the black color, for example, can be, if it's under the light, it will be always lighter than, for example, white color, but in the shadow. So this way we can show the difference between light and shadow. So. And again, I need to make some underpainting and then enrich it with the tone and details. Let's take raw sienna, blue-gray. It should be quite greenish tint. It will be underpainting. And of course, the directions of the folders, they are important too, because if you change them, for example, she has like, round folders here on her corset, and it shows the way her body is curling. If you change the way of folders, you will change the position of the body, and sometimes it can look, broken. So always pay attention to these details as well. Now we need to make everything softer, our brush strokes. Now let's take some blue-gray and peacock to add some. She has some very beautiful tint of the, I don't know how to call this part of the dress, and of the wings as well. And again, don't forget about the beautiful light part of the wing. Sometimes some, really tiny lines that we don't pay attention, but they will enrich the picture with this so delicate details. So here I leave some detail, this light part as well, because it will be obvious only when the picture will be covered with the background. Now I added some bright ochre. Now we can add more shadows, like concentrating blue-gray and raw sienna. more blue-gray. And again, use more blue-gray. And again, don't forget about some light lines there, because everything in this dress is done with a tulle, very light tissue, very beautiful one, very popular in ballet. So everything should be really soft, very delicate. If you want to show this, you know, fluffy and airy dress and the movement of the dancer, because it's very elegant, very delicate. And now I'm going to add some shadow part of the arm. And here I begin from the middle tone. And the brush should be quite dry, just to do not let the color fluid into the wash of the corset. So let's take raw sienna, opera, blue-gray. Let's paint another green person. More sienna and opera. Maybe we can use some lemon yellow.
We had a question about what you use to get that greenish bluish shade on the dress.
Yes, raw sienna and blue-gray.
Thank you. Perfect.
And now I'm covering all shadows. Yes, the fingers are another problem, because again, it's a really tiny detail. And now let's add some water, just make it more fluid. Actually, I think the paper is drying. I need to re-wet it. Let's take smaller brush. Again, the same tint, raw sienna, opera, a bit of orange, a bit of blue-gray. This part of the shoulder is under the shadow. Let's take some blue, because she has also some reflexes. Yet now it looks strange, but in the end it will be quite good. And again, some dark tint, Swandeck brown, raw sienna, and opera. We need to emphasize the shadow, otherwise we can't show that the head or the hand, the arm is round. It looks like a cylinder, some kind of. And now let's add some darker tints in the shadow of the dress. So you can see that I always use the same colors. I don't change it. And raw sienna, blue gray, and a bit of pickle blue. Я работаю. Выйди, пожалуйста. Иди ешь пирожечку. And we need to add this bluish tint. Just a moment. And if you see this hairy stuff that sometimes it appears when you work wet on wet, it's better to eliminate it. Otherwise, it looks like, you know, a big man hand, not like a dancer one. So just soft touches. And again, as you can see, when it's drying, so it loses a lot of darkness. So due to the process, I always add again and again some tint. And of course, it's better when I do it when the first wash is still wet, but sometimes it's dry. But okay, if it's dry, I can add some second layer or third one. It doesn't matter. You should always remember that the technique is just the, it's not the purpose. The technique is like a tool, a tip that you need to show what you want to show. So the most important is the result or idea that you are going to show. And we have another hand that will emphasize the light on this, the first hand, the first arm. And okay, let's use the same tint, more pinky. Raw sienna and opera.
Is it possible, Anna, to maybe pause after the hands because it's already been an hour now?
Yes, just a moment. The hands will be the last one because this part doesn't have any, you know, so tiny details. This one, yes, a lot of them, especially hands.
Yes.
Just a moment, Hannah.
That's
I need to just, yeah. And let's paint the shadow there using Van Dyke Brown and Opera. And maybe you can see that I left the light part on the first finger because if we cover it with a tone, it will be, it will lose this light, and we need it because, otherwise she will have it like a chicken hand. A bit of more blue-gray. So everybody is alive. How are things?
They are very alive. They're discussing papers and drawing hands and the color choices, and yeah, they're very super supportive to one another.
Oh, okay, because yesterday there were a lot of questions, and this time, silence.
Yes.
Maybe of peacock. And now let's show, because and another thing that you need always to observe is the way the light goes. So it directly goes to her head, so it's vertical. So and the tutu has the volume, so obviously the upper part of the tutu is lighter than the lower part. So let's add some tint to show it. Let's take Sienna and blue-gray, again, our greenish tint. So that's why I made wet the middle part, so this way the light goes will be really soft. If it goes out, this tint, there is no any problem because the background will be darker than the dress. So in this case, it doesn't matter if it goes away too far. But another problem, if this wet part comes too close to our brush strokes, because it will move the tint again and again. That's why I made dry everything before I began to paint tutu. Now let's take again blue-gray and a bit of peacock, because it has some tint there as well. And also we can show some folders. But remember, when you take darker tint and you touch the paper, the first touch is the darkest one. That's why I begin from the final point of the tutu. If I touch it here, so the darkest point will be here. Hannah, are you painting right now?
No, now I am just keeping an eye on the chat.
I see. Okay, let's create the shadow. Raw sienna and blue-gray. Less water.
We had a question before what you could use if you don't have raw sienna. Would you prefer to use a yellow ochre, or would you prefer to mix something with yellow instead?
I don't know. I don't like yellow ochre because it's always too green. And I use only one raw sienna. It's by Core, American brand, that is not that greeny as others. Yes, I have some, particularities in my colors, and with some really reasons why I use especially this one or another. And I don't know, I don't remember already, because from childhood I had raw sienna, and I have never ever used other colors, like, if I had it all, I've been having it always with me, so I can't say what would I do if I have no this color especially. Yeah, I think I will mix it. Maybe, I don't know what. Maybe some Van Dyke brown and yellow. Yeah, maybe lemon yellow. But you can find the right color. It's not, super unique one. That just I just have never ever thought about it. So she has inner part of the dress or the tutu, and I'm trying to show it as well. And again, let's add some blue gray and raw sienna and a bit of ultramarine. So again and again, I'm adding new darker tint, and again, but now it's too wet. So you can see that the color spreads much faster and much wider. And now it's time to paint the legs. And as you can see, she has some, I don't remember the name of the costatinas. the white cover on her legs. So it will have the tint of the skin as well. So it will be pale, bluish, and a bit of pinky. And we need to simulate this image. Let's take Rosiana Opera. And they should be quite dark because you can see that the legs are some kind of a silhouette on the background. So we need to add quite, dark color. Sepia, Opera, blue gray, and raw sienna. And now we should be careful because we don't need to spread it too far.
We had a question earlier about the program, and since there might be people who are wondering the same thing, I will reply it here as well. And it was a question about how many finished paintings there are in the standard versus the premium version of this program. And the answer is that there are 10 pre-recorded watercolor paintings in color in the pre-recorded video. So that's in both of the plans. There are 10 finished paintings in color. However, there are also sketches, and there are also a value study that is used in monochromatic, so one color. So there are several more subjects that you will learn about, but there are 10 finished watercolor paintings in color in the pre-recorded materials. And if you choose the premium plan, you will also paint 4 different paintings together with Anna in the Zoom sessions that are part of that program. And if you join us within the next 24 hours, when the super bonus is also there, where you can choose one of Anna's courses, then there will be 3 or 4 additional paintings on top of that. So that means that it will be 17 or 18 finished paintings if you choose the premium plan and join us straight away. And if you join us later on, there will still be the Zoom sessions, but there will not be the opportunity to add one of Anna's courses. So I hope that that answered that question.
So as you can see, I didn't add any, super detailed stuff to her points because I prefer to pay more attention to the upper parts. And here we can add also some shadow to her foot, because we need to put her on the floor, and without the shadow, actually she is flying. Of course, she is still fit, she can fly, but especially in this case, we need to add some shadow. So we use our rose sepia and blue gray. And yes, I put shadow right now, because when I put the background, it's better to have everything prepared for the background. So in the end, we don't need to correct shadows, and it will be very soft and harmonized and so on. So I add the shadow. Now I need to make again everything soft. And the purpose to make everything that's soft is, again, because sometimes we are in hurry or we don't see something, and soft edges can be easily corrected and change it and so on and so on. So really useful stuff. Let's add some blue gray. And another leg. Here we have some danger point because it's surrounded by the tutu, and I will do my best to do not lose the tutu. Let's reveal some folders back with the water. Don't forget about the flowers. And be careful with the face, of course, with the borders of the face. Because if we lose it, we can't reveal it again. Yeah, of course, we can use some opaque white, but I prefer to do my best to not fail. Not successful always, but okay. And you can see that even with this brush, I can paint so delicate stuff. Like, eyelashes and so on. And I really love my tools because I was looking for them so many years.
We have a question from Maria, who asks if you sometimes test your paint or the mix on a separate paper before painting on the actual painting, or is that something that you did before, or something that you encourage your
No.
students to do, or do you just go with the flow and hope for the best?
Yeah. If you feel that nothing happened in your life, just take big brushes and a lot of colors.
Drama will be there.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I like watercolor. It's like a jokes with a god. If you want to make him laugh, just tell him the plans. And the same with the watercolor. Unpredictable, actually. No, I like plastic palette because actually it's safe. It saves a lot of colors. That's why I can use them for years. And I don't need to mix it again and again, because when you use the paper palette, you need, it's absorb a lot of water. So you need to, to mix again and again. And you lose time, you lose, time is precious actually, and colors as well. There are some of my tubes, especially color ones, they cost like maybe 15 euro, and I think it's quite I'm greedy. I'm so pity for my colors. And you can see that some of my colors here, as I told, for years, and they still feel very good, and I can use them wherever I want to use. And I don't know, the color that I use mostly is raw sienna, sepia, and ultramarine. Other colors, I renew them only maybe, I don't know, once a year, or for example, like opera or peacock blue, like once in 5 years. And that's why I like plastic palette. It allows me to do it as well. But yeah, when previously, many years ago, I also had the paper palette, but now I can see that more useful to have plastic one. But you need to find some that can, you can see that it's not colored. I don't know how to, so it doesn't absorb the color. It's also Korean one by Magella, the simplest one, like maybe €5, not like $1 million, but it's very useful. So you can see that so I cover some shadow part of the dancer just to connect her with our background. And she appears like, like a ghost. And now you can see all small white details that I left during the process. So the background is really magical moment.
Maria asks, Anna, how is it that you can talk and paint at the same time?
When you are restricted in time, you can be, very, say, multiplying, or I don't know how to call it.
Yeah, very, very skilled multitask.
Yeah, multitask. Yeah, exactly.
We also had a question about if you could please repeat the colors that you use to mix the background.
Raw sienna, blue-gray, peacock, a bit of ultramarine, and sepia.
Thank you. And if the colors are too fast for people, then remember that you will get a recording, and then you can pause and rewind, and you will have access to that for 48 hours. And if you join the program, you will get lifetime access to the recordings of the workshop today and yesterday.
Yes, yesterday I think was more more different in colors. Here we have not that much colors for today, and in some way it's easier to paint. When you don't have too many, you don't need to think about them too much. And be careful with the fingers.
Do you have any tips for people to succeed with this background? Because this is something that I imagine many people feel a little bit fearful of.
Forget about the fear.
Oh, yeah.
Take big brush, forget about the fear.
And make sure the paper is pre-wetted enough so that it doesn't
Yes,
dry
that's
immediately.
true, because yeah, it's much easier when you have time, to fill in with the color this part and then come back to this part. Otherwise it will dry too fast if the paper is too dry, so you have no time to think or whatever. So that's why before, usually I rewet the paper just next to the borders of the main subject. Then I take away the paper, I mean the wetness of the face surface, and then immediately I begin to paint it. Just a bit of lemon yellow. It makes really nice tint. And you can see that so many colors can create so, sparkling silver tints. But looks like really dirty and not beautiful, but that's just magic of watercolor. So we need to unify our subject with the background. That's why I touch it. I touch the subject with the background so it looks more harmonized. But of course, when I do it, I need to always look after all these brush strokes. This is a +1 problem. More blue, gray, and lemon yellow.
Marcia is curious about the leg that has blossomed a little bit into the skirt. If that was by choice, if that's something that you're looking for, if you want to fix it, or if you're gonna leave it as it is.
What do you mean? I didn't get, sorry.
Where it's a little bit wet and a little bit of blossom with the leg that you're painting now, and also the other leg, that the legs are kind of blending into the skirt.
Yes. That was occasionally. Sometimes when the water walks like this, I leave it like this. I like it. So I'm not, as you can see, I'm not very, how to say, if I have the possibility, so I can see that it looks nice. Okay, let's leave it like this. I didn't plan it, but it appeared. Why not? More lemon yellow. We can use the possibilities that water gives us. And now we need to connect the skirt with the, because now it looks artificial a bit. So nobody has a heart attack?
Some people have stopped painting and just watch now.
I'm just adding the pure water. Of course, it's not pure, but I mean clean. I have what I have.
Is the skirt still a bit wet, or is it pretty much
No,
dry now that you
it,
re-wet
it
it?
was dried,
Mm.
almost all. Because usually when I paint something like this, I prefer to add the background at the same time. But now we have step by step.
Mm.
Also, I can show how to, sometimes it doesn't work like, connect all the wet surfaces at the same time. So we can do it like this as well to connect them
Yeah.
this way too.
We have some comments here. Marcia is writing no heart attack. Rachel is writing the extra light effects you get from leaving a sliver on the light sides is very effective. And we have a comment that says it's fascinating to watch like crime movie. So yeah, it's very fascinating for people. And I think
Yes,
that,
thank you.
yeah, beautiful glow. Thank you so much, Anna.
Yes,
And
but now we need to control because you can see that everything is, the background comes to the tutu, so that's why we need to control the process.